My name's Mervyn Lyn. I went through school being, I guess, fairly successful. I was in the top sets at most of the subjects, and but never ever found anything that sparked my enthusiasm. Being the youngest of four boys, my elder brothers used to buy a lot of music. We used to go to Cheapo every Saturday, buying vinyl, and I remember picking up vinyl, seeing who produced it, who was on it. And it wasn't before long when I left school that my friends used to say, "Oh, there's a party on Saturday, Merv. Can you come? And can you bring some records with you?" And I went, "Okay, fine." So I started bringing records with me, and before I knew it, I became the DJ. There was a party, there was a DJ. It's kind of, "Merv, you play some records." So I play some records. And then at that point, I decided, you know what? I want to be in the business of music. And unlike now, there was nothing offered. There was no media studies. There was no, anything creative in that area to do. So I left school at 16 to answer my father's wish, which was to do an apprenticeship in engineering, which I absolutely hated. I must have been the cleanest engineer ever to walk this earth. I got through it. I got my City and Guilds. I got my City and Guilds in this hand, and I gave him my resignation in that hand. And I got home and I said, "Right, Dad, I've done what you wanted to do. Now I need to do what I want to do." And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "I want to be in the music business." And he said, "How are you going to do that?" I said, "Well, I've got a job in a record store in Enfield." "Record store? That's not the music business." I said, I know, but it's a start." So I started working in a record store, and what was good, because I was still DJing, I was able to kind of influence on the kind of music we sold in the store, because all the kids that came in used to come to the club on a Saturday or a Friday, and I know what you like. So we used to stock loads, and there was a HMV across the road, but we outsold the HMV across the road because we had a much more greater connection with our audience. Anyway, went on, managed a store. They moved me on to another store, managed another store, and did all that. And then I got a call one day from Blues and Soul. In fact, I'm looking at Derek here. Derek used to be one of our reps back in the day, and I can't remember how. Yeah, I can't even remember how long ago that was now. 30 years maybe. Yeah. Derek was our MCA rep, I think. RCA rep back in those days. And anyhow, I got a call from Blues and Soul and said, "Pete Tong has just left, and there's a vacancy. Do you want to come to Blues and Soul?" And I went, let me think about that. Yes, I started at Blues and Soul, which was about 1983, I think, ish. And I worked for love. There was no money. It was for love. They paid peanuts, but the influence that it had on the music scene was so great that it was an opportunity that anybody who loved music could never, ever pass up. So I worked for Blues and Soul for about 2 or 3 years, and I was still DJing at the time. I was DJing up and down the country, in Newcastle, in Torquay, in Yarmouth, in Swansea, everywhere I was DJing, as well as working for the magazine. And then it's funny because most of what I'm going to say today is that I've never applied for a job, ever applied for a job. I got a call one day from Virgin Records and said, "Would you help us? We're starting a black music division and we'd like you to come and help run it." Again, I said, "Let me think about that." Yes. I went to Virgin. I started working on Soul to Soul, on Loose Ends, on Maxi Priest, on Mantronics, on Inner City, and it was a great time. The music business was less a business, was music fun. We had so much fun. We were working great records. We were out every night. We were staying in the best hotels, flying first class here. And, again, all those days are long gone. Distant memories, heartwarming memories, but distant memories. And I was at, I think, Virgin for about 3 or 4 years. And one of the labels that we used to work was a label called Sleeping Bag Records. And they had a number of artists, Mantronics, Todd Terry, Joyce Sims. And then the guys that ran it in New York said to me, you know what, we've decided we're going to stop licensing our music to all these labels, like London Records or whatever, Polydor, whoever in the UK, and we're going to set up our own company, and we'd like you to come and run it. So I said, let me think about that. Okay. So I started running this company, and again, I see Bob there, used to do club promotions for me, who's now big club DJ and promoter in his own right. I brought Bob in to come and work some of our records. We had some great records. Korea, Let Me Love You for Tonight. If anybody's ever heard that record, and I can tell, and I can see the smiles on your faces of the people that have. If you haven't, please listen. You know, we worked EPMD, Todd Terry, and I remember doing a show in Berlin with Justice, EPMD, Steezo, DJ Cash Money and Marvelous on the Brandenburg Gate, and it was a month after the wall came down. And I'm convinced that the people on the eastern side of the wall heard EPMD, Todd Terry, Joyce Sims blasting over the wall and thinking, shit, I want some of that. Let's kick this wall down. And the wall came down. It did. And that's no lie. A month later, the wall came down. Anyhow, I was at Sleeping Bag and there was a big, big crash. And I can't remember the year of the crash. But all the big US labels pretty much got liquidated or bought up by majors like Def Jam, Priority Records, Select Records, Sleeping Bag Records, and so on and so on. And I lost my job. And I think I was unemployed for about 2 months. In fact, in those 2 months, I made a record. Fortunately, you'll never hear it. I wasn't singing. Trust me, I wasn't singing. And I got offered a job of being general manager of Motown UK. And of course, I had to think about it. I said yes. And I started at Motown on its last legs of its partnership with BMG in about 1991, I think. And BMG had a lot of problems on breaking some of the Motown frontline artists. It was great at, you know, the rehashed greatest hits version of Stevie Wonder, or greatest hits rehashed version of Diana Ross, or rehashed greatest version of, you know, Marvin Gaye, whatever. But what they were really concerned about was, what are we going to do with these frontline artists? Because if we're not breaking them, we're never going to have any catalogue to fall back on. And my first act was an act called Boyz II Men, which had been worked for 6 months prior and was getting no cut through. And I said, you know what? We need to make sure this is more European friendly. So we did a complete new photo shoot with the guys, looking a little bit more credible, for want of a better term. Much more closer looks on their faces, as opposed to this distant view of 4 guys or 5 guys in the background. We had them in like proper collegiate jackets, and you know, they looked really, really smooth. And it was #1 in 27 countries around the world. End of the road was absolutely amazing. Motown thought I was great. I thought, oh, this is easy. I've got another act called SHANICE, which we'd been working for a long, long time. And I said, you know what? It needs a new twist on this record. So I said, you know, the Dry as a Bone guys are great. And the Dry as a Bone guys remix I Love Your Smile, and it went #1 in 21 countries. 2 or 3 years later, the company was sold to what is now Universal, and the person that took over the international repertoire was given the job, and I was let go. And I think I was unemployed for 6 months, I think. And then BMG called me back and said, you know what, we'd like you to come back because we've got 3 labels that we'd like you to help us break. And I said, oh, fine, what are they? I said, well, one label's run by this guy called Puff Daddy, and it's called Bad Boy. And there's this other label run by this bloke out of Atlanta called Dallas, Austin. It's called Rowdy Records. And we've got this other label, La Face, and it's got some whatever. And I went, oh, okay, fine, fair enough. So I assembled a team of people to help me break this stuff. And I can see some of them here now. Thank you for making me look good. I have to say that during our 6 years, I guess, we were the pinnacle of breaking black music artists in the UK. And not because we were getting Radio 1 support or anything like that, because we weren't. We were the first company ever to employ a street team. I had a street team of 67 people around the country that went into barbershops, hairdressers, youth centres, to tell people that these records were coming out because they weren't hearing it on radio. The only radio they were hearing it on were pirate radio, which really we couldn't advertise on. I think we must have had about 12 top 5 records, be it TLC Waterfalls or Tony Rich, who else? Toni Braxton, Total, Usher, thank you. Who was that? Who said that? Saf? Thanks, Saf, because Saf was there. Thanks, Saf. Yeah, Usher, Puffy himself, 112, Total, Monica. Oh, my God. I mean, we were absolutely killing it. And then our chairman said to me, you know what, the UK have got this off. You know, I need you to move into the European office and teach the Germans and the French and the Dutch and the Swedes what you're doing and how you're doing it. So I said, okay, fine. So I moved into the European office and we did incredibly well. And then Sony and BMG merged. Excuse me if I'm going on a bit. I'm trying to condense 32 years in about 10 minutes. And Sony and BMG merged, and they brought me back to the UK company to be head of marketing for what was the merged company, and I absolutely hated it. And I hated it because there was no creativity. When I left the company, it was all about figuring ways to get to market beyond the norm. And when I came back to the company, it was, how much are you going to spend on TV advertising? And actually, breaking records is not about TV advertising. Breaking records is about hitting a note with consumers that touches them in such a way that they're encouraged to go and buy something. And I couldn't see that. Anyway, they asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, you know what? I'd like to work with brands and figure out ways how we can work with brands to get our artists heard. And I took over kind of partnerships which evolved, that I took over partnerships across the whole Sony roster. And we looked at ways to get to market with artists. So like Kasabian, we launched the England kit with Kasabian, which was the first time ever an artist had launched an England kit, because it's always been a footballer. But this was because Kasabian resonated with the consumers that love football. And then after a while, I figured this was a really tough sell, to try and sell things that we no longer owned. You know, as a record company, yes, we could sell music, but could we sell a performance? Not really, not us. Could we sell an artist endorsement? No, that's not really us. Could we sell an association, an artist's face with a brand? No, that really wasn't us. And I thought to myself, you know what? I can do this for myself. I don't need to be sitting within a label trying to figure out a way to crowbar our relationship in with these brands through sitting with a label. So I set up my own company, and fortunately it's been going very well. So that's my potted history. What I'd like to talk about specifically now, though, the importance of, I guess, something that resonates a lot with me, and that's about success management. Because I find that there is so much apathy with people wanting to help somebody else. And I can't understand what the fear is that somebody doesn't want to help somebody because they think that that person will get better than they are. Because if they get better than they are, it's because they were destined to be better than you are. It shouldn't stop you standing in their way. And I say that because I have always given a chance to the people that worked within the company that I've been responsible for. June Sarpong, who spoke here a couple of 3-4 weeks ago, was my assistant. I have to say, she's the worst assistant I've ever had. But I told her, because June would pick the phone up and have a conversation with somebody forever and ever and ever. And by the time I got back, she'd forgotten who she spoke to. I said, June, this is not for you. You need to do something else. And she got into TV. You know, I've taken, you know, people off reception to give them a chance within the company because they thought that actually working in a record company, they would get an opportunity, and invariably they didn't until somebody said, you know what, actually, I'll take you as an assistant because I think you deserve a chance. And you know what, they've all gone on. You know, 2 or 3 people have got their own companies. You know, I've seen people here who would have been let go until I said, no, actually, you've got to give these people a chance. Give them enough rope to hang themselves. But I believe in these people, and I think that we need to change the culture of who we are and what we do to give people chances. You know, you've got to give people the benefit of a doubt that everybody has a calling in life. Everybody should be given an opportunity to do well. And if they're not, it's because somebody stood in their way. And I don't want to be remembered as a person that stood in anybody's way.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and watch the rest of our talks below.